Let's go ahead, Sherry. Hello.
We're glad that you all are here tonight. It's a nice turnout. So I'd like to. Thank you. I'd like to welcome our judge for this year's regional photography exhibit, sponsored by Cortland Arts Connect. This is Meredith Cantor-Feller.
Hello.
Meredith is an associate professor of studio arts and photography in the art program at OCC. She earned a Bachelor of Fine Art in Studio Arts and Photography from the University of Alaska in Anchorage, and went on to complete a Master's of Fine Arts in Studio Arts and Photography at the University of Illinois. Meredith moved to Syracuse in 2006 to teach at OCC and has taught a wide variety of courses for them. As a professor of arts, her goal is to guide students through conceptual and technical experiences that improve their ability to communicate through art. She believes that play is central to our creative growth and finding what we want to say. Please welcome Meredith Cantor-Feller.
That's never awkward. So I'm assuming I'm going around and just saying something about that.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll do it real fast, right?
Okay.
Where do you want to start?
Yep.
So
Sarah, we'll just go right around.
Okay, who's Karen? There's a Karen.
Is Karen here?
Yep. Hi, Karen. Hi. I love, so when I first saw this, I love not only that there's great focus detail, but it has context. Having something have context tells us about its scale, tells us about our compassion towards it. For example, this, I'm assuming, is a mother. There's mother energy there, so it connects to people differently, which I think is kind of a nice way to build in the story behind something. And let me shower that in the background. Did you do that? I'm assuming you did that in Photoshop. With the blur filter, maybe?
I do adjust it a little bit. I crop it and use contrast. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Who's this? Hi. So, what I loved about this one is something, and I have to say, from a place of, it's my taste. It's just my taste. It could be completely different than anybody else's, and that's what's so great about not grading something, but judging during something, is that I've seen so much pumping up of color, and when you go back to this sort of original color film color palette, it's refreshing. So it has this sort of tone of like being washed, diluted, but I think something that I like the most is right here in the foreground, something is blocking our view.
It's taken from my car.
And listen, and that's okay.
Cause the coloring.
But this thing here has the suggestion of shallow depth of field in the foreground. And as photographers, we don't often initiate contact with the foreground until our bodies fall and hit it. There's a lot of wasted real estate there. There's like a solid 6 feet of like stuff. So this, for me, puts me in the bushes, which puts me in a vantage point that I wouldn't normally be in. I'm sort of crouching and observing, and so I really feel a deeper connection with it that way because of this something letting me know that I'm here. Which is it? Here. Nice and fancy. That's it.
Which one is it?
This one.
A little
Nancy.
No.
Okay. So what I love about this one is the composition. I like that there's a smidge of abstraction to it. Not necessarily the rule of thirds or how, even though it's zoomed in a pinch too much to make it a little grainy, the composition of the bird is not its most beautiful. When you see the neck out and the wings out so you can see everything, I like that the composition is a little bit more like a plane or something futuristic. So it's just nice to see a bird not always have to be, and Linda. So I love the cropping. I love that you cut the wings off. That would be normally something that everyone wants to celebrate. So cutting it off says, I also have a beautiful face. I also have a beautiful body. Now I'm an insect that lost its sexy, so are you still into me? And I think that we are. So I like that composition of his body. I also love the context. The focus is a little soft because you zoomed in a little bit. A way to counteract that is to print a smaller print. It makes it seem like a little gem. Like, ooh, I have to work to look. That could help counteract the soft lines. Nancy, where's Nancy? All right, Nancy's not here, right? Love the composition here. The rule of thirds is played out really nicely. Again, we have context. We have the bird in the primary rule of thirds in the top left, and we have him looking out. He's looking out at something that we could also find. So we could find what he's finding, which puts us parallel with an animal that's known to be quite sharper than us at these things. So I appreciate the context for the neighborhood. The bird is really well focused, and there's this empty space that we don't have to always chop off. It's think space. Susan. Love the composition. We have foreground, middle-ground, background. We have a really sweet respect for the rule of thirds, having the main subject matter, or we perceive to be the main subject matter on the crossroad of the rule of thirds. But we also have the building a little bit of depth. The blackness stops us, but having one more flower just gives me that it's on a stem as opposed to just being removed from a flower and sit in the studio. So I really like that pop of blue, the pop of green in contrast with the bright yellow.
If we could you to speak up a little louder for those of us who are older.
I am sorry. I'm speaking because I'm in a hurry, so I want to hit everybody, but I will speak louder. I apologize.
Thank you.
So where is Randy?
Oh, that's me. I didn't even grab.
No, good. So compositionally, it's beautiful. Cropping is beautiful. I love the warmth. Hold on, it might not be warmth. Whatever it is, warmth or cool of this in relationship to the aqua. He's really gross. You can see every detail. He's hairy, he's fuzzy, he's dirty. If you're gonna zoom in that close on a bug and own all of that, then you pair it with something that is new, it's fresh. We've got this new little birth growing here. And the suggestion is that he has potential. So when the flower is all bloomed, it's its best. When the flower is trying to get there, it's not at its best. It hasn't even reached kind of its best, at least from our view. So I love it, assuming that it's not bloomed, that he's made this selection of the most obscure and less attractive choices. But yet he's still doing what he does. Is that loud enough? A little bit louder? Okay. Janet. Hi, Janet. So one of the things I really liked about your piece was that we have a strong foreground element, which reminds me a lot of Asian printmaking, where you've established the foreground, which means you told me where I am. I am in it, and I'm safe in there. So as I teach to my students all the time, something that I feel very strongly about is that the foreground, if you activate it early, you've put us in it. We're inside of it. I can feel the mesh of the tent behind me. I know it's a cold, maybe morning. I don't know, but that doesn't matter, I don't think. I can put myself into it. So there's an acidicness to the palette of the grass, which reminds me to stay in the tent. Because that's where I'm safe. There's something sort of awkward about I don't know if it was solarizing or sort of like what you did to do for the background. Do you remember what you did back there? Did you do anything?
I just played with it.
Okay. So some of those filters, it's like an allspice. I say to my students is that we get used to putting a sprinkle of this, a little sprinkle of that. We don't look at the recipe anymore. And when we play, we don't have to look back at that stupid recipe. You just know where it is. You start to find it. So what I love about Photoshop is, assuming you use the platform, is you can season a little with one, turn away, and come back and the picture doesn't remember. So if, let's say, for example, you took contrast, levels doesn't remember. If you took contrast and zooped the contrast all the way up, and then said, you know what, I need more. I can go back in, and it perceives that nothing has happened. Its little carrots are right in the middle. And it may be blown out high contrast, and you go back in and say, no, I want more. You can do that infinitely. It's not until there's no picture left. So I like that whatever it is you did choose to do, set me back. It said, stay here. Okay. Where is Jim? Hi. So fun that you went with something a little different. You put a colored map. Colored maps are ridiculously risky because they can set a tone or they can be too contrasting. My first time around, I didn't even see the map. So I will say I did all of this already at home. Minus mats, minus frames. Nothing changed. So because I'm a big believer in mats and frames. So when I came in, nothing really changed. I didn't change the sheet at all. So with that said, I didn't even see the blue. But even when I walked through, I didn't see the blue. So you picked the palette that didn't interrupt me so much that it became the show pony. That's how I say it. But I also like that you've put the viewer in the vantage point of where we have to be in the water or precariously near it. I think we're probably out on the end of a diving board, maybe we're close. And that just creates discomfort, not for everybody, but water, wind, earth and disasters, fire, those things make us a little bit jiggity. And so we're near it, it's beautiful, but it's actually very deadly. That's what I got from it. It was deadly, not beautiful. You're okay with that, right?
That's me.
Michelle? Hi. So yours I had to read a couple of times. I had to go back a couple of times because in digital it doesn't translate because it could be a two-dimensional paper project. So they're tricky. So it's like, is this, because maybe I need to see it in person. So it could have been something two-dimensional that had a three-dimensional element in reality, but I didn't know that. So in the picture, I have to see if it's the same picture as before. And it is because of a couple of things. You left this little, there's no physical depth, but you left this little gap right here where I can see that it's on something. It's like laying on something like a white cap, or there's some sort of white thing underneath it. And just that little sliver and this shadow right here tells me it has depth. It also tells me roughly where it is. So with this little shadow being so sharp, and this one being so soft, and this one being so sharp, there's definitely like a nice amber glow desk lamp, something right here, which helps to give this a gentle shadow as opposed to a super aggressive sharp shadow. I didn't even read into what the things were, because a couple of animals, we don't spend a lot of time mentally sort of dicing everything out. So a couple of animals set the tone. And then I was able to just rest and look at the composition, which was the shadows for me. Who is Sharon Max? Hi. So, this lovely thing is almost impossible to talk about to students because they don't know what it is. Atmospheric perspective. When something with debris in the atmosphere makes things get fuzzier in the distance. Like you know, you're seeing right here. So this loss of perception, loss of clarity, and this addition, it's not just loss, it's this addition of this palette that is a one-time palette. This won't happen again tomorrow. So this is a one-time palette. You can't recreate it unless you can recreate the pollutants in the air that made that happen. And that's sort of that sweet spot about it, is that this color palette is very much its own. This also has the feeling of color film, like non-edited color film. Has that palette to it, very similar to this one right here. Where's Carol? Hi, Carol. So, it's a tricky one. It's titillating, it's tantalizing, it's a structure that it's the tourist vantage point, like when we go anywhere that isn't where we live. We're suddenly interested in light fixtures. I don't know how that happens. But it's weird, right? It's like you gotta look up. Because this kind of stuff is about, to me, is about craftsmanship. And I don't know if we do craftsmanship anymore. Buildings don't have that flavor. So this kind of stuff is juicy. We look at it like, oh my God, someone put that effort in. Someone who maybe didn't have the resources put that effort in. So what I start looking at is things like effort. Then for me, because of the symmetry is slightly off, which I know it was meant to be, the symmetry's off and this bird is facing this direction. And then I see the video camera from their surveillance imagery camera is right there. Those things are where my head went because the bird told me to. Don't quote me on that. The bird told me to. I know where I am, and this vantage point is that of the looking at the God, from my vantage point. Anytime you're looking up into the light, it's holy, it's optimistic, it's biblical, and this has been set up to remind us of how small we are. That's how I take it. But then I saw the little, not bad, but I saw the bird, and it reminded me that this is not 1815, this is whatever we are, 2020 something. So it was just an interesting twist on the observation of old structures that are biblical. All right, who is Carol? Hi, Carol. Hi. Totally different set of comments. But I can see now, we have this inclusion, things like the video camera, things like modern stuff sprinkled into the old structure, because it's a clever and lovely bait and switch. So, oh, look at this structure. Oh, it's beautiful. It's been here for thousands of years. It's gorgeous. It's elegant. How could you not feel overwhelmed by the beauty? And then you have this like reminder of how dumb we are. This our planet literally inside of a structure, dangling precariously, gobbling up the space, which makes me feel kind of weird about being a human. Like, I do naughty things, and I wreck stuff just by being here. That's just where my head's at. So, with that, this has asymmetry, but in a very cute way, in that this line goes up to the left, which means that means moving. So it gave aggression. This ball's got a little movement going, it's flopping around. At first, I didn't know if it was photoshopped in, and I had to accept that it wasn't. With that said, I would have loved a shadow here and there to prove that it was there, as opposed to put here. Okay. Joe. Where's Joe? No Joe? Okay. So this one was interesting. It was in the blue category. It's called Cold, which all of that stuff, like when if you go see the movie Alive, you know what happened. So you already come in with a preset. So Cold told me it's cold. The category blue said it was a blue component to it. So I instantly came in going, you're not blue. But then I saw little peaks. Light, like chiaroscuro lighting, it sucks you in because we don't see well in the dark. So really good lighting pulls us in like we're safe. Chiaroscuro lighting with that intense dark around you makes you like, oh man, I'm not safe. So this right here, the staircases say, you're welcome. That's what stairs do. Please come, please go. Please come, please go. But I don't want to come and go. I can't go backwards because I'm in darkness, which means I don't really want to go backwards. It's not inviting. It's not a warm, cozy fire up my fanny. But yet over here in the neighbor's backyard, or this tells me the street is illuminated, and this tells me that somebody else is alive. So scenes like this sort of pull you with little light triggers. Bounce to this light, bounce to this light, bounce to this light, and the darkness can be damn near anywhere, but I love that it's not in front, that it's not, the darkness is behind me, which tells me I kind of gotta go. Kind of gotta get on out there. It doesn't make me feel like I have a safe spot. Gene. Hi. So this one, when I saw it in the slide, it didn't look the same as I'm seeing it now because this railing, and I looked at it several times, I thought this railing was metal. It doesn't change anything that it's wood, but I see it differently now. There's something, this car and this railing and this cliff is so different with wood than it would be with metal. Wood implies that it was more labor intensive to do, that it was maybe done by the local community. It creates a little bit more, less of highway and more of country road, which I think does matter. Love the car coming at us. That means that we're on the side of the road. There is a walking trail already on the side of the road, so I feel like I'm from here. You know, maybe that's where I walk back and forth to the store, where this view, truthfully, is nothing to me because I've seen it 100 times. So that's the vantage point I feel like I'm in. That this is the thing I haven't seen 100 times. So equally split, a beautiful landscape with a highway. It's tricky, but it's also, I think, good and bad all together makes everything more amplified. So we have man's way and beautiful nature divided by something that's supposed to suggest protecting us from falling off or not having your car go off the cliff, yet we have a pedestrian who's observing both all the time. Megan. Is that Megan? No Megan? Okay. So this one was tricky for me because I loved the foreground setup like that to where we know that this is floating on ice, it seems, because it says ice blue reflection. I'm like, is that floating on, is it on the ice? So I had to stop saying it was, in my mind, it had to be on the ice, not below the ice. And then love reflections in water. Those are like, we're raccoons, we love shiny. So that's always going to be juicy and attractive. The houses were a pinch out of focus. Kind of either be out of focus or don't. If I have to question it, we go like, did I like that or did I not like that? Then probably you should eat something else. I think out of focus like that was just a little bit soft, just a pinch soft. I'm sorry. That is, I always check out paper because paper you think is a surface. I would say we think of paper as a surface, like the walls are a surface, but there actually have all these beautiful levels of translucency to them that if you pick glossy sort of, it keeps us away, there's like a veneer of sheen between us. whereas satins and pearls like this one is glossy. So this one isn't the same person as this one, right? So this one, and that one over there are all printed on sort of a glossy paper that is not typically one you would print at home with, like maybe you outsourced it. Never pick, in my opinion, never pick glossy when you outsource imagery because it's so shiny. There's no white ink. So if there's no white ink, you can't put white on. The white is the paper. Unless your paper is the exact sheen, satin, or luster, or pearl, is the exact sheen as the paper, which it's not, it's going to always look like there's like this gap of ink sort of missing. Who is Lauren? Hi, Lauren. So, what I loved about this, well, first of all, what I loved about it in person, I like the nice thick mat. Mats are, they're crazy expensive if you buy them. The depth, I think it's a double mat, isn't it? Not double mat, but it's like 3/4 thicker than the other mats. That thickness just pushes us out a little bit, makes a very regal frame. It says, take me seriously. It's like putting Greek columns on the front of a craftsman. You know? It's like, it's a very different kind of energy. No offense if anybody has Greek columns on their craftsman. But the picture inside is fundamentally a weed, or a tomato arm, whatever. Cucumber. And it's gangly and reaching. It's holding with this weird little cartoon hand that makes you instantly laugh. Rule of thirds is beautiful. Rule of thirds can make anything hold its status, especially the shallow depth. So when I say rule of thirds, you guys all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So, what? I love how it's sweeping out like this, and it's reaching over like that. It has a lot of really nice body language, and the fact that it's holding onto something that we don't see the rest of it, gives it a little bit more attitude. We don't need to see everything. Who in here does like crosswords? Who in here sucks at crosswords? So you get that one question right, and then you build in all the other questions that maybe you could kind of get right, and then you have the tricky one. I think when pictures give us little hints, like, good job, you did know what that was. And then we have to work up to the reveal. It's exciting. Who is Catherine? I should know because you asked. All right, so I had said this a second ago. Glossy paper, it has a tendency to, it's not as rich, it's not as velvety. So the sheen is a little bit tricky for me. And also as simple as the fact that there's no mat. Although it's a perfectly appropriate size around it, if you went to a really fancy restaurant, here I'll put it that way, I say that to my students a lot. If you went to a really fancy restaurant, what kind of plate do you expect to be served to you? Would you pay $40 for your meal if it was in a foam tray? But we'll gobble up those chicken nuggets like it's nobody's business because the price matches. So when you want something to be sort of elegant, you put it on a big, fat, white porcelain tray. Big old border. That border says, I'm not small, I'm something, so take me as something. And it's kind of a fine art aesthetic as opposed to a journalism aesthetic. And this not only subject matter is more journalism, the framing is more journalism, which is fine, totally fine. But things like this, text is tricky, American flags are tricky because they come loaded. Without any more of a narrative, those things come real loaded. Frank, who's Frank? Hi, Frank. So, another one. This one was tricky for me. I said that a lot. They were all tricky for me. Love the composition. Diagonals are, because the human animal is an upright animal, or we're sleeping, any diagonal creates awkward tension for us because it's a state change. If I'm falling down, I'm on a diagonal. If I'm on a motorcycle going around a precarious curve, I'm on a diagonal. So any diagonal creates a little bit of nervous energy. This is a diagonal, this is a diagonal. I love that they're tops. Right here, their shirts, we have these strong diagonals. They're both at their faces are faced at I mean, it's very much like we're peeping in on somebody else's life, and they don't know. So that means I can get a little bit closer. So I feel a little bit like I'm being voyeuristic. They're not turning around, and I find that because they're not doing that, I can really examine all their parts and pieces. I can look at the two shades of blue. You did a real sweet job right here in keeping, there are 4 shades of navy happening here because this looks like almost like a distressed wool, where this is maybe polyester, where this is maybe cotton. There's just these subtle shades of navy, and you can instantly mess that up by tweaking things, which I don't think you tweak anything. And that's the difference with some younger photographers who think they'll just spray and pray and they'll edit later, and people who maybe cut their teeth on film, that you take it, and if it's good, it's good. If it's not, you don't do anything with it. So I appreciate that aesthetic as well. Jim? Hi, Jim. So, compositionally, I love Oliver pattern. Oliver pattern is when anything falls off of the frame in any direction, not trying to sound patronizing, but I'm a teacher, that's what we do. So the Oliver pattern I love because it gives the feeling of scale. This could be an endless amount of scale. I will say though, because the shadows are a little sharp, it probably means you shot with flash. They're not crazy sharp, so it means it was softened. Whatever the light source was intense and softened. I don't know if you guys I love do you know what a Gary foam diffuser is? It's cheap, it's like a rubber bulb that goes on the tip of your flash. So it just softens things, it just softens them a little bit. But I don't know if you use flash or not, but there's that hotness of the flash mark. But I love that you broke the repetition with this piece that comes out, because that automatically creates scale differences and depth. This is this. Who doesn't love a good penis art piece?
Yes, my neighbor and I harvested it, and so I had to get a picture.
You did. You sure did. And not only did you get a picture, you put him up for a crucifixion by zip tying him to a pole. There's little zip ties holding it in. What I love about it is it's funny. It's like little kid funny, where it's like penis. but that's sweet. We all do that. At least in my mind, we all do that. We all get a little chuckle and see boobs on something. So photographically, it is lit from the back. Backlighting is the way I say it to my kids is that imagine you hold light in your hands and you have it, and it is a property in every one of your pictures, or it wouldn't be a picture. It is glory, it is the hope, it is the optimism, it is sacred, it's the most important thing. Now put it behind your back. And now what you've done is created a human characteristic other than the penis. You've created power, it's in charge. So everything think about like fighting. When two people get ready to fight and someone jumps in front and says, don't do it. The lighting is in the back, so this figure now has human qualities of like, but he's in control. We're not in control. It's not, a lot of nude stuff feels like we're accosting something, whereas it doesn't have to. The porn industry revolutionized that, like with, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He was a porn. Playboy Hustler. He oversaw Hustler. That's where that shift happens to where let's soften things. It was a movie about it.
Yeah, it was a documentary.
Pretty sure it was. But backlighting is critical. The fact that if you like an object, let it get down on its level like you're worshiping it. Let it come up and let it have the light. So it's in charge, and I think you did a really nice job there. So on a superficial level, when you're fishing for the audience, you pulled me in because it was funny. On a secondary level, the photograph is good. And on another level, you control the light. Whose is this? Am I talking loud enough? Because I feel like I'm yelling. All right. I love the use of the 13 by 19. They pulled a fast one on us when they gave us 13 by 19 paper. Because you can't print a 13 by 19 picture without having some ridiculous mat that isn't custom. This is a custom mat, right? The scale is custom. So see how, and if I'm wrong, tell me. This length and this length, you cannot go to Hobby Lobby and pick one of those up. And as consumers, the 13 by 19 puts us in a position where the next size up is so dramatically large that you wouldn't want to sell something that size, because then they got to have a frame the size of their refrigerator, so then we got to go back down to 11 by 14s. Well, then why would I buy 13 by 19? Anyway, all of this around it smells of custom. custom smells expensive. So this little orange line.
We keep the local frame shop in business.
The frame is nice, it's elegant, it's black on black. I love that this isn't shiny, and so we have, black mats are never black. That's why I love that you put this, because this black would have fallen away in a very messy way. Black on black is not white on white. This is black, this is 9.5 black, this is 7. So by breaking up those little pops of color or little pops of sheen, I think it really nicely helped with that. Composition. Couldn't get a more classic composition, which means you compete against everyone else who has a classic composition, which means a bowl of fruit is like a race of the bowl of fruits. So what I love about this one is you went with window, well, apparently window light. Low, it looks like window light, it might be studio, but low window light. This right here, see how there's a shadow here and then a little light there? And you have some breaks in the shadows, which suggest a paned window. They'll do that when they're selling cookies, when they're selling anything where they want you to think you're in a farmhouse. The window light will be broken by those panels to make it have that feeling of being in an old farmhouse. Love the wood grain, beautiful texture. I love how it is graduating away from the light. We have these that pare down. Just even the arrangement of the fruit is attractive, but these are sort of like, you know, you see puppies go to the mom's boobies, and there's always the ones that have to like work their way in. These guys already had their turn, so they're sort of like, you go ahead. So there's a pecking order to the vegetables, if you will. I don't know if I noticed this for real. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Right here, did you clone at all?
Did I what?
Clone or anything? There's a teeny, almost like a little bit of a vibration. Do you guys use Photoshop at all?
I use Lightroom.
Lightroom. If you ever use any tool that is you pick the tool, you pick the ball, and then you pick hard or soft. Unless you're really dealing with like making a person's tooth complete, then you use a hard edge. But when you use an eraser with a hard edge, when you use any painting with a hard edge, it doesn't paint like a paintbrush. It paints like a bunch of going like stamped circles. You know what I'm talking about? And they're edgy. And I felt, and I don't know if I'm right, it could just be my eyes, I felt just a tinge right here of like it, because it's sharp focus. There's no reason that has that little, just a hair vibration, like maybe you cloned up a shape or something.
I'll have to look at it to remind myself.
Yeah, you tell me if you see it. All right, who is Terry?
She's not here.
All right, again, another risky color mat. So we have this beautiful color mat, more than likely one of the least represented. That's a really healthy way to frame things. Pick the least represented color or the color you want to look at, which in this case is this bloodish color. I like that this artist picked the deepest, darkest sort of purple plum red to go with, because it makes me think about the aging of fruit, how it goes from one color palette to another color palette, another color palette. It has a really nice, hold on, light sources back there. There could be a little shadow. It's high, but back there. We have this little shadow here. There's 2 light sources because I see, so this might have been studio. So see how there's this light source and then there's a heavier shadow behind it? That's like 1 or 2 light sources back here. We only have 1 sun. So if there's 2 light sources, it ends up looking more organic. Than 1 light source than if there's 2, because we know 2, we don't have 2 suns. With that said, I love the all over pattern and just, you can really capture the texture of it. Who is Sharon? Sharon. Hi. This is, can you see? Is that okay? Can you see? It's vulgar. In a good way. Because we're humans. One of our major things on earth is to procreate. So when we see things that are a little bit kind of almost, it's very vulgar. It has soft, it has reds, it has these beautiful little baby smooth shades, and it is in fact presenting for us. We can't undo that. So when it's presenting out like that, it is super sharp shadow, and the light is on it. When the light's on it, it feels more like they didn't have free will, as opposed to like, and so it's like lower angle and softer light. And I love that you can ugliest component. Keep this little
brought in a youth thing. You could have easily cleaned that up, but it's okay to be ugly and soft and rough, and the rougher it is, the softer it is. So I really appreciate that you left that alone. Where is Terry? So Terry? Where's Terry? You said Terry was here or no? The other Terry. Oh, okay. So this is tricky. Home studios, assuming that you don't have a studio somewhere else and you use a home studio, it's totally fine. That means you have to keep sheets ironed at all times, like the smoothness of backgrounds. You don't have to go running out and buying all these expensive backgrounds. A lot of the textures you guys need, especially for something that's stale, you can go to Thrifty Shopper, Goodwill, get old pieces of pillows, pieces of dresses. You can get some beautiful velvets, especially older materials have better quality, and you can get a little bit richer materials. With that said, I appreciate the effort that this is clearly a piece that was picked specifically, Dancing the Night Away. That's a great title. The arms really have this sort of like tango dancer kind of energy. The fruit itself, notice again, it is not in charge of the light. It's not in charge. So the light is hitting it, the shadow is sharp, just like they do in every movie where they try to suggest that someone's being cross-examined. They click on the light and then they're vulnerable and put in a position of weakness. So when the light is hitting from the front like that, the object ends up being put in the position of being an object. We know it's an object. So I do love the map. I think there's something fun about that. The maps are tricky. You can't go messing with something that's already been established for a very long time. But when you do, baby steps. Okay. Janet. Is Janet here? Hi, Janet. So you're the one who played with the tent. So you did similar play here, I think. This is like, I think this is neon glow, maybe in the filters. What's great about it is it instantly means it's not Earth. And if you want to take us off the planet, you got to mess with gravity. You got to mess with planets, like how many suns we have, and you got to mess with the tonal palette. For those of you who like this sort of an acidic, intense palette, you may love metallic paper. Metallic paper is made by Epson, but I think Hansen has an equivalent of it, and it's the surface. It's not metallic. It looks like a pearl, like the surface of a pearl. So these sheens, you catch a little fire behind them, kind of like a clear coat over a sparkle paint job on a Harley. Get a little sparkle, a little shimmer, and those things will glow. Another thing to concern yourself with, if you guys like to print with these pops of color, there is no neon ink in the ink set. There isn't one. I would love that. There isn't, nor is there a puff paint in the set. So what happens is if you go too far out of spectrum, like if you get that, let's say it's a color adjustment, and you go too far, you can see it on the screen because that's the light bright. You can't ever print it. So this is obviously still within range. If you did see it slightly different on your computer screen, like lighter, then it might have just gone slightly out of range. It's nobody's fault, it just can't print neon. I love all the rich black, very similar to what I said about Kim. Randy's piece, is this helps, this little white ribbon here, it does help separate it, but even just a black mat with a white trim inside helps to separate it and say, no, look at this black, this is the one I want you to see. Yeah. Lauren, hi. So, this historically would not be my style. I don't lean towards journalism or documentary stuff. But you use layers in a really effective, powerful, emotional way. Who can argue with a firefighter's relationship to America? Who can argue that? So it becomes instantly patriotic, and you didn't have to use the flag in a way that was so obvious, like it doesn't have to be him holding a flag. It can be just a hint. We all know what that thing looks like. So we just need to have some suggestion. Horizontal stripes are calming. So we instantly this is intense and calm. Love that you went with the desaturated, almost like a Xerox transfer or something, but like film grain maybe, and we have these other little layers of other tones, just to soften it a little, just to soften up the theme a little bit, is what I thought you did.
Who's Tracy? Hi, Tracy. So, this one's interesting because it breaks the rules. The rules. Do we have rule of thirds? Yes. Look here. Do we have shallow depth of field? We sure do. Look at that. Look at me. Look at me. Pictures of macro stuff are very much like, look at me, because they're so juicy. And we can't see macro. So when we see macro, it's like peeking into some sort of perverse underworld. Tons of texture. Everything is telling me to look here, and you have done the complete opposite. You've centered it. You didn't give me any wings. The bug is hanging down. All of those things would be the opposite of what one would expect from a bee shot. With that said, the flowers are hanging down. That down angle, the bee had to do his job. It wasn't just laid out there for him. Really, he had to get at it. And there's value in that, of knowing that he's really doing a hard job. We'll try hard. This one is not ready for him. Notice there's only one, but this, I'm gonna stick my butt in here, I'm gonna stick my face in there. It's really doing work. And it's interesting to really look at something else doing its job. And therefore, these things become kind of like Paula Abdul's backup dancers. I'm pretty, but I'm not hogging the show. And that's okay. They can do that. So I think that's a really nice use of selective color. Who is Sherry? Oh God, who's Sherry? Hi! Who's Sherry? So unless you have 3 fairies at home, you did a really sweet job of ending for the piece. Would anyone do this to a tulip? Do these edits and say, oh, that's my tulip. I'm done now. But then you slap the fairies on there, and it's like, I gotta make these match. I'm assuming the fairies were probably done, and they're children, so they're probably done on a stage with lighting. The lighting made them that color. You're working with what you got. Excellent job removing them from context and still having them not look like they were ripped out with scissors. And you made the flower match them. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we'd be like, damn, I didn't go to that show. There's believability there. And there's levity, and then also these little additions here. It's hard to be a digital painter. Photos are realistic. Illustrator, Photoshop, just building blocks, it's not. So marrying those transitions is really tricky. These little things right here give a little bit of movement, telling me to operate in a spiral. This flower's petal pattern tells me to operate in a spiral. And then their body language, and it's like this one here, that they're all spinning up the spiral. Okay. Aliyah. Cam. No, wait, okay. I love it when a strong foreground element tells me that I'm important first. We're looking at a landscape. When we travel, don't we look at the vistas, all the land, all the things to see. But when we stick a big show pony right in the middle, which is a fun thing, it says, no, look at me. And it's not glorious. It's not a beautiful rose. It's a spiteful, pokey, half-grown, rigamarag, ruffety scubblebuck, right? And it's like, So he's very showy, and then off in the distance is a landscape that doesn't appear to support life. So again, I make it about people. If this landscape doesn't appear to support life, you're no longer a ringing rag buckle muff. You survived. So you're the old withered, person dragging themselves, to the family reunion. You're the only one there. So there's something about that. There's something very human and very natural. Only in context. And be careful also. The cloud is a hair pink, just a sprinkle pink. Catherine is not here, right? God, so this piece is a really great piece. It has beautiful composition. It actually has a radial pattern, but forward radial pattern, which is pretty fun. You see it in food imagery a lot, but you don't see it in things in landscapes. So you know how you can have like a pond, and then it stops, and then a barn on a field, and then it stops like sandwich layers. This one, we have this field back here, it's just holding place. Because of the cows, there's one here, it's like a radial pattern like this, which suggests an infinite ring of these animals sort of clustering around you. Don't know about you, I'm not interested in being surrounded by a herd of animals. So it is a very aggressive composition. This line right here, don't know about you, But a little teeny line between me and an aggressive, potentially aggressive animal makes me really uncomfortable. So just that little line says, oh, you're you and I'm me. So this is where we're at. Anything staring at you, a person, a cow, a whatever, anything that might have part of a face, if it's looking at you, it's confrontational. Not I'm gonna kill you. We are seeing each other see each other. And because of that, you won't look at me. So if I'm looking at this, I will be uncomfortable and turn away faster than if I was looking at the, I don't know if they're moving out or what, because I can look at them from the backside. They don't get to see me seeing them. So what's great about it is that it takes an animal that we almost use as a prop out in fields. Like, look, it's a field and there's some sheep. Look, it's a field and there's some cows. It's like they're just holding the earth down. This is a bunch of cows who just happened to be on the earth because their temperament is more human. Frames, mats, elegance, scale. Not huge pictures, just owning its own real estate. Look at that. Is that everybody? Oh no. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded and I know you guys have other things to do. Oh, it's hot here. It's a little steamy, huh? Ooh. Okay. Where are we now? This end? We started this end? Okay. Where is Megan? Megan. I went back to this one a couple of times because I love, there's something about this interruption of things that we make and leave in our landscapes. Not waste, not garbage, but it's a girdie, it's a support beam, and it's about Rusty Bridge on the inlet. It's just left there. So this idea of my home is right there, and then these things that are just sort of left around to be what they are. Rusty old metal pipes. I mean, think about on 81, all the effort they're putting in to put up those hideous graham cracker walls. Yet on the other side, someone's living there. Someone has to see that. And it actually impacts your psychology, it impacts your behaviors, it impacts everything. So this right here tells me I might be rural, in a rural space, but it's also the bridge. So what does that mean my county feels of me? Am I pushed out? Am I part of the culture? And what does a rusty bridge mean? It could be a very strong metaphor for neglected engagement. Who is Bruce? Hi, Bruce. So we have a couple Bruce. Two Bruce. Okay. There was a lot of crossover in the metal category, so I didn't know how many were maybe from the same one. This kind of stuff, I'm talking about them together if that's okay. This kind of stuff is super delicious, shiny and rough. It's contrast. Our species survived because we had peripheral vision and we saw things that didn't seem right and took care of it. So contrast, bright and dark, shiny and matte. Anything that's not the other. So this right here, chrome is one of those things, chrome doesn't rust. Does it not now? Of enough time, nature will win. So this rust for me is about this conversation of our relationship with nature. And the guaranteed fact that we all will be consumed, not to be negative. That's a fact. So when things start to get eaten away that we had so much faith in, like metal, and then gosh, we had chrome, nothing eats away at chrome. For me, these are about loss. They're about, like you said, fated victory. That's the little symbol of what one day was a majestic vehicle that somebody was proud of and somebody maintained, maybe kept for their children. And now, even the chrome has gone. So that to me is what these are metaphors for. A car coming and a car going are very different. A car coming has had this feeling of like a hidden optimism, where a car leaving almost has like, I'm sorry. I can't work anymore, I can't get off the road, I'm sorry. So there is this apology that's happening here, almost like somebody turning their head when being confronted, which is kind of interesting. I get more, once I start to get more context, I have things like, oh, what era might it have been? I wonder if the seats are still good. There's more context, I start getting less metaphorical and more actual. But this is also fun. Who want Earth? I get deep sometimes. Mm-hmm. Who on Earth wants to not be allowed to be on the main road? that you're no longer valued here. So scooch over to the side there. Get out of the way for the things that are still going. So I find when there's roads that have been sort of like, you know, the subject matter's been just shoved off into the bushes, it's very telling of where we are as a culture, that we can't still keep it up. We don't want, it'd be cheaper to buy a new one. So that's what I feel when I get little road giblets. Who's Jean? Hi, Jean. So there's no denying this is a beautiful picture. You can't deny that. The vantage point is beautiful. It is from the view of an architect. Like if you ever look for, I want an architect to do my things, it's from this vantage point, like drone or slightly above, no people, which is great, no cars, don't know what era it is, but you left something in that I think other people might take out, which is what sealed the deal for me. You left that in. The ugly. Go around the backside of any of these hot buildings and see what you find. Everybody's got a dumpster. So you left this little, to me it's this big, flamboyant, youthful flower saying, look at how amazing and modern I am. And then you peel back the sheets and we're just all the same. So we're just still a box, you know. That movie theater in Mattydale is not round. You know what I'm talking about? It's got a round front. It's a square box. So that little peekaboo back there reminds us of showmanship, I think. Great print quality. Love lusted paper. Frank, where's Frank? Hi, Frank. So when I first saw this, I instantly thought, I gotta pause my thoughts on this. I'm not make it about anybody else. I spent 3 years in Alabama. Is that enough? It reminded me of that feeling of my family's from Alabama. I go way back in the deep south, and it reminded me of that feeling of intense poverty. Not shim-shimmy house, but a type of poverty that is so intense that everything goes to the maintaining of the family in the home. And the title drove it for me, works in progress. Well, isn't it always? But for people who have no resources, works in progress look like blue tarpaulins and undone grass. It doesn't mean they don't care, it's a lack of resources. So when I saw the blue on the blue on the blue, and then I started to see no paving. They have this old beautiful car, but they can't use it probably because it doesn't run. It doesn't mean it's not of value. We have empty bins, a cracked up porch. Not that it is an unlivable situation, but it clearly could go that way very quickly. But you gave it dignity. Titles really do turn things around. You gave it a lot. You separated it out and say, no, this isn't something I'm just letting turn to shit. I'm actually trying. I just may not have the resources. Harold.
Hi.
So I love that we have some contemporary layout. We have some new things going. I heard some people whispering, like, it looks like a sheet of metal. Yeah, it does. It does. And that's very delicious visually. It pulls us over. It doesn't have a map. I think the term for it's called bled mount. If you did it like in a museum, it would be the cards, like, oh, there's a card, and it goes right to the edge, and then there's like a thick piece of foam core. There's no map. It's bled all the way to the edges, which is really great, especially if you pop it off the wall. Not so great if you slap it on the wall, because then it looks underdone. So this, leading off the wall, tells me it's in the painting canvas family. Can I confirm that it's rust? No. I have no confirmation. Could it be this big? The image you submitted online has a teeny tiny bit more stuff here. I'm almost certain.
Yep.
Not much more, but just a little pinch. It's almost like the edge of a something. I have both. That's all my clues, which is fine. It adds mystery. It's opening the door. It's saying, here's, what do you think I am? And then we start to play Where's Waldo? The average eye does not love abstraction. As you get older, you learn to appreciate it. You don't come out of the box knowing it. We come out of the box knowing if it's abstract, it can probably hurt me. Hell away from it. I can't understand. And we also don't have any points of reference. We don't remember. We don't have memories of stories to say, oh, that kind of reminds me of that aerial view that one time we were in Saudi Arabia on that trip. Children don't have that. As we get older, we establish the growth of that. We need more reference points. So this thing right here for me became a reference point for scale. If that is a bolt, I'm assuming it's not a ship, that means it's probably yay big, which means the rest is probably yay big, which means it's probably on a truck or a car or a tanker of some sort. They gave me scale. But if you look long enough, which only adults have patience for, I just watched a TED Talk on patience. I was watching it on the way here. I still have to finish the reading. I'm not great at it. But the longer you spend with it, you start to see things like the aerial view of that time when you were flying over Saudi Arabia, or the swamp from, view from when you were seeing some show about some whatever. Those things come in for abstraction as we get older. So I love that you played with something different with the layout. It does change everything, really. Sherry, who's Sherry? Over here. So prints on canvas. This is something you guys we can all do online, relatively accessible now. There was a time when it wasn't. The second you put something on canvas, it's like, I hang out with paintings. I may not be a painting, but I hang out with paintings. And so we instantly go, do you hang out with paintings? Let's talk about that. How much, what do you know about paintings? So we drag along all the memory of a painting. Paintings are one of a kind. Paintings require a lot of effort and time. They're steeped in massive history. So they automatically have a little. Then you have a really beautiful use of rough and smooth. It is a classic view. You included text, but it's a text that everybody probably knows. So it's not like it's like, this Plymouth, I need to look this up. No, we know what it is. We know it's in a car, in the story, and you're just memorializing, almost like a headstone, this vehicle. This vantage point, we are from up looking down, but because it has eyes, it has a lot of characters going on, a lot of characteristics of someone who's been around. The guy at the end of the bar. You know what I mean? Who's always at the end of the bar, but you never talk to him, you don't know his name. You know what I mean? Is that making any sense? Okay. I love that I can see that there was a nice landscape behind you, some greenery and some concrete. This is going to be like someone's driveway who lives on a higher elevation, maybe? I don't know. But you blacked that out. I don't need all that. It's almost like when they do, someone on stage comes out, and then there's, the greatest showman is the one light. So it gives that opportunity for some regalness. Who is Michelle? Hi. This online is very different compositionally than here. Online you have this picture. This picture as this picture is not this picture. This picture is the first time we're seeing this picture. Because of this. This is think space. Unless you built this to cover an electrical panel and just that's the only match you had. It doesn't feel that way to me. This feels intentional. So we have the words hometown hero, solid metal. Hometown hero. Well, if you're memorialized in metal, you're probably not around anymore, which means we're referring to the past. Your object is gesturing to the past. Your object is gesturing to the past with a light. What a beautiful metaphor. Come follow me, I will help you. So that gesture, the body language, all of it says, and this is where you fill in your narrative, whatever your narrative may be. So someone who, I don't know this sculpture, could this be about the Underground Railroad? Maybe. Could this be about someone pioneering across, uncharted territories and guiding their, the enemies, whoever? Yes, it could be about anything. Any story that plays out like that lives right here in this empty, open, white space. Terry. Okay. Something that's so glorious about things like machinery, our lives, our whole lifestyle has changed since the Industrial Revolution. We get to have leisure to enjoy. Not that you couldn't before, but there's a whole different feel to it. Machinery reminds us of that things are made, that things are mechanized. We can count on things like consistency and food. Especially things that look like this, that have sort of like an industrial farm equipment to it. They're not just farm equipment, they're making our world exist bigger than us. On a visual level, we have a diagonal, always gives us that little bit of tension. We have things that are going into pokey parts. I don't know how to say it. Pokey things going into something that could potentially chew it up. So, do you have children or grandchildren who watch ASMR? I'll break that down. Go to YouTube and watch relaxing videos to go to sleep by. You're not going to get weird porn. You are going to get ASMR, which is people playing slime. People putting their bicycle in one of those giant grinders that eats up their bike. All of them are about state change. And it's sad because it kind of really reached its high during COVID because people were not experiencing the world, so they were watching other people experiencing the world. So, just compositionally, machine aside, we have these pokey things going into this turbine, which does not look like good things happen there. I don't want to be there. So it's that anticipated moment that something could happen. And then green is such a weird color. It kind of annoys us, even though it's an agitating color. It is. A lot of lime greens are just kind of make you feel a little bit jiggity. So, but it's clean. So am I at the meat factory or am I shopping for meat factory equipment? I still don't want to end up in that thing. So all of that tension is built around that. Tracy, hi. So we have a vantage point of we're on its left side looking at it. So offside, the lighting would be considered broadside lighting, offside lighting. From a vantage point, it has an eye. But roughly, I think it's 80% of our population sees faces in things, like shutters look like faces, door handles look like noses. Not everybody sees that. So I'm going to start by saying, I see that. So I caught a fan in my before I got scared. So this having an eye that very much feels like an eye, it's that little kid at the lunch table who doesn't think anybody wants to sit with him. So he just and looking at his tray. He's old, so he's probably not running. He's looking off in the distance with sort of that vacant stare. It might be a she, I'm not sure yet. And we're sort of sitting here, it's like whinging over next to the kid who's not getting hung out with. It's like, I'll just sit here with you even though we don't know each other. So my body language in relationship, keep in mind I'm a mother, so I'm biased. This comes from deep issues. So seeing that eye just sort of gazing out to no receipt is sort of it's kind of a sad, like you're letting it go, but I'm sitting next to it, so we're buddies for now. I think that's everything, right?
That's everything.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with blue and go that way, or we
Sure,
just start
whatever,
right here?
whatever makes you happy. We can actually start right with the metal.
Put your right here, let's see.
Just check on the children.
Okay, we get first, second, and the third in the metal category.
First in metal, can I say why? Or no, I already did it.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
just,
First in metal is works in progress.
Yes.
One of the reasons I liked it, obviously there's the blue, sort of like, oh, it's blue, and there's blue, but especially in the political climate we're in right now, it reminded me of America. A really beautiful, rich, diverse America that has very different ideas, but we're all living. We're all here. So it just gave me a feeling, it reminded me of the America that we don't talk to. We don't, they're not reported. So they don't get to come and get interviewed because nobody cares. You know, like, sorry, I didn't give you a date, but this just reminded me of just America. Second, Fated Victory. Is Bruce here? Did I talk to Bruce? Hi. Where's Frank? Okay. And then, so I love this piece because it.
That's Bruce. I was.
You were.
Although you
That's
might be
Bruce,
to
you're
know,
Frank.
these cars were less than 100 feet away from each other.
And we took it the same day.
So Bruce is you, Frank is you.
No.
No, he's Bruce.
Where's Bruce? So what I liked about your piece was that it's so easy when you see something that is covered in all these sexy, juicy bits, rusted lights and chrome and dangling memories, and you didn't let me have all that. You just said, here's the situation. Your title guided me gently there, and you used the word fated, which makes me have empathy. So when you start to have empathy for textures, you start to connect it to your human experience, and then boom, you're locked in. You want third? Fisher Center at Bar College. Oh, sorry, you wanted up on the thing, you don't hear. Oh, that's okay. There's no denying this is a gorgeous picture. There's no denying it. It's who's that again? Where's Gene? There's beautiful shades. You did an amazing black and white grayscale image without blowing things out, without having, you have really elegant light in the sky. It's really hard when you have too much sun. You had just the right amount of sun. Super elegant, but unlike other people who do these beautiful, elegant things, there's only so much sweetness you can have on a cupcake, right? Sometimes I want to accidentally get a bowl from the bottom of the cone. And that little ugly giblet really says, ah, I see you now. So that's what I have. All right, we're in blue.
So there's a first, second, third, and an HM.
All right, first is still water.
Oh, great.
The inclusion of such a dominant, it's half the frame, is a foreground element. Lets me know as a viewer where I am, and that my main priority is that space. Anything out is a peep show. Like, you could have, I don't know, kids rolling around in the lake, it doesn't matter, I'm in here. So all of this inclusion of this foreground element is a very strong way to start space.
Second.
Second, great blue heron. Where's Linda? I can say that in every show I've ever juried, ever, I don't think I've ever picked an animal. If I have, there was a lot going on. It's so hard to build in, to capture beauty, the thing that you want to capture, you know things about it more than likely. Once you become like a bird expert, why do we ditch the landscape? It lived there. So this animal, it's not actually doing anything miraculous or beautiful. He's just chilling in the pond, man. And this foreground element, regardless of where it came from, tells me or suggests that I'm sitting there with it. We're just, me and like the blue car, we're just hanging out, hanging out.
Third place.
The blue hour in Utah. Where's Sharon? Not here. Oh, hi, Sharon. We have a rich orange that's not been monkeyed with. We have a beautiful earth tone purples that are in these, I guess they're like a shrub brush, or just like delicate lavender, which is complemented again right by about there, that tone there. So you're sort of almost like a meal. It's like, here's the appetizer, here's some snacks, here's some sauces you've never tried. We're slowly slipping into the composition, and then you end it at day, which is nice. It's all safe. I just sit here and observe. I'm not too close to the edge. I'm not too far from the edge. This isn't too fuzzy or too not fuzzy. There doesn't have to be the dang sun sitting on the horizon in every damn picture. You don't have to. It's cool. It's really beautiful sometimes, but you don't have to. So I really appreciated the muted palette that you slowly built me into the composition.
And HM.
I'm sorry, Sweet Chicory. And Susan's not here.
No, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Susan. Exquisite focus, blocked out, blacked out background, so you can give me just a little bit of reference point, but you haven't let me get distracted with it. Our attention span's about 3 seconds, and if you don't grab me, I'm gonna get out of here. Anyway, yes. And you pick sort of an unconventional flower. It's really good focus too. It's really sweet and clean.
Okay, veggies, first place.
Veggies. First place, vegetables with basket. Oh, vegetables with basket. write in a better way, not write in a repeated way. It would be very easy to do something like this and say, well, that reminds me of the blah, blah, blah at the museum. That reminds me of the blah, blah, blah. You left a little bit of the ugly in it, which I think was needed. You got those dirty, ratty carrots over there. You got a cucumber that's all warty on the ends. They're still vegetables. So I really appreciate the real soft, tender vantage point of us seeing them like little armies of people. It's a really sweet image. It's beautiful too. Second place, holding on for dear life. So, this one I knew right away. It's funny. It's not trying to present itself as more than what it is, and it's human. Holding on for dear life, we all. So, the desperation, the length of the reach, and the twangle, we needed it to be a dark stick, and it was. We needed it to be one delicate arm, not 50, because all that tension is there now. Third place. On veggies, sunlit cabbage. And this person's not here.
No, she's not,
No.
unfortunately.
Overall patterns, when you guys look up, not that you do, pictures like this are really great pictures to have in your portfolio of images. All over patterns of fruits, all over patterns of vegetables, because they continue out to the sides infinitely. That's how pattern designers, wallpaper designers, they have to have an infinite continuation of patterns that can be repeated to have a good look. What's great about it is it's not too mucked with, you didn't go over the top, and they're so tight, you can feel pressure, you can feel weight. That's what I use next.
Okay, wild card, first place.
High rise. What are the three things you're supposed to talk about? Politics, sex, religion. Did I get the sex one right? Right? And don't talk about those dinner parties.
Unless you mix all three, then it's fine.
Yes. So we have religion, in that there is faith, not necessarily God. There is faith involved in that image. There is, because we're counting on these people to protect us. We have politics in the very tricky time to have an American flag slapped across something. You don't have all of the flag. Some people might see that as desecrating the flag. Because I don't mean it that way. I'm just throwing the devil's advocate here. It's featured. We don't need to. We're like Nike, man. American. All we have to do is flash a little side of the flag. We don't even need to show the whole thing. So it's suggesting, and then it fades away to this ashy tone that could be anything. Could be any fear. It's all down here in these ashy tones. So I think very delicately and tenderly addressed all the things that a person would want to address if they were an American.
Second place.
Busy bumble. I'm shocking myself tonight. I picked a bug. Bird picked a bug. You broke the rules in just the, it's yours, right? You broke the rules in just the right ways. Not every animal doesn't have to look like, he's a big old fat jerk of a bumblebee that's like probably barely can fly. And he's cool too. He's a hard worker.
And do you have the best in
Yes,
show?
that's a show. Cold.
Cool. Wow.
And that person's not here, so I don't need to explain anything. So, images like this are when we wake up and we go outside and we're like, shit. And it's work. We just looked out of our home at work. We just looked out of our home at silence. There's a quiet, like a deep, deep silence. And not sadness, but a little bit, because I'm in a darkened doorway. You ever heard that phrase, darkened doorway? I'm in a darkened doorway. And one of my favorite poems, I shouldn't know who writes it, but there are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who toil for gold. And there are arctic trails and secret tales that make you loving and cold. It's about Sam McGee, who goes to get his friend out of the cold, and he says, please, out of the furnace, and he says, please shut it, I'm fine in here. So it's about death. And all of this weight, the tree's beautifully composed and light, these little sparks of light. So even in our darkest hour, we know we're just right across the street from somewhere.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.